Buenas tardes. I'm going to go ahead and start. We have two great presenters for this talk, and I'll just quickly introduce ourselves and we will get started. So my name is Maria Milagro Garcia Quiñones. I am being the moderator. I'm an assistant vice provost for diversity and student success and a professor of medicine at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. We have two great presenters. I will go ahead and present Dr. Jose Manuel de la Rosa. He's a board certified pediatrician who currently serves as a provost and vice president of academic affairs at the Texas Health Science Center of El Paso, and he continues to teach. He has also overseen student services, educational affairs, Office of Diversity Affairs, and the Office of Global Health Affairs. He was the founding dean for the Paul Foster School of Medicine, leading to the school's accreditation process. And he was served as the regional dean for El Paso Regional Academic Health Center. And for several years, he's also been in graduate medical education, overseeing the residency program at his institution. Dr. Jose Manuel de la Rosa also received a Platinum Award, which was the top honor in the Texas Medical Association. We also have Dr. Silk Soto Santiago, who is the Vice Chair for Faculty Affairs Development and Diversity in the Department of Medicine at Indiana University School of Medicine. She co-chairs the school's Diversity Council, teaches several courses, and her scholarly work is in the Center of Equity in Academic Medicine. She directs the All In for Health Initiative as a statewide program facilitating research participation. And she's also she's in the board of directors of Diversity and Inclusion Liaison in the Alliance of Academic Internal Medicine, or AIM. I want you all to welcome both presenters. The way we structure this, we'll have about 45 minutes in total, a little bit less now, but we have plenty of time to do the questions and answers and comments in the chat. Just go ahead and put the comments in and we will review it at the end of the talk. Dr. De la Rosa or Soto?
I will start. Buenas tardes, everybody. Dr. Sanchez sent us to lunch, but I was having my lunch when the meeting started, so I'm just waiting 45 minutes for the happy hour. I don't know where all of you are, but that's my current state of mind. So I want to welcome again everybody to this particular chat. It has been a fantastic meeting. This is, I think, any inaugural conference I have attended. So kudos to Dr. Sanchez and the planning committee. You can go to the next slide, Dr. Garcia. Thank you. So what we're going to try to accomplish today is to have a conversation. We're going to analyze considerations when selecting a faculty track, and we're going to also try to differentiate between common academic tracks. You know, the old saying, and I think this is the most important disclaimer, is that if you have seen one academic medical center, how many have you seen? What's the answer? One. Okay, thank you, Dr. Salazar. So I say that because the perspectives that Dr. De la Rosa, Dr. Garcia, and I are bringing today have the limits of the institutions that we have been at or others that we may have seen. So the first thing that you may have to look at is actually at the faculty handbook of any institution that you are interested in possibly having the academic career. I would like to first start with a very brief exercise, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but next slide. Thank you very much. I will not bore you with the science of happiness, although I enjoy coaching our faculty very much, but this is an exercise that I actually do in my individual consultations with them in trying to make a decision. Number one, if going into academic medicine is the right path, and also choosing the right track. So you know what brings you joy. Where is your passion? Where are your values? So with that said, next slide, if you have just a pencil, I'm just going to give you, is it okay, Dr. Garcia, to give 1 minute?
Absolutely.
Do we have 1 minute to spare? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. So in just this very simple, I guarantee you that it's a little bit more complex than this, but this is the table that I'm using today, is that I want you to think about the values that are most important to you. You can select, I think, list 2 values. I think somebody needs to mute. Are we okay? Okay. So I want you to think 2 values that are important to you in terms of your professional life and your personal life. For that part, I'm just going to give you 30 seconds. So how about that?
Oh, God.
Can people mute their?
Thank you.
So these values may look like cooperation, creativity, growth, integrity, respect, humility, and some other ones. Would you mind just doing a typing in the chat, maybe 2 values that were really important to you? We're not going to read them all, but I would be very interested to see where's the heart of the group here. Justice, equity, compassion, education, family. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So the next ask that I'm going to make is under passions. I want you to just write, it doesn't have to be a complete full sentence and much less a paragraph. So if you just want to put bullet points or just a fragment sentence, that is fine with me. But I want you to think about in your professional life, what actually energizes you. And again, this is not, in any way a real deep exercise as we go through consultations, but I want you to really think about where you find fulfillment in your profession and where that passion lies. So just a few seconds here. As you finish, you're more than welcome to type those. I see innovation, patient care, seeing others succeed. Yes. Oh, these are so awesome. Service to the underserved. Fantastic. Good. Witnessing my students rise and thrive. I'm going to pick on that one, Sunny. The reason why I like statements like that is because many times when we are asked to introduce ourselves, we're asked, we say, my name is Silk Soto and I'm vice chair, or I serve as this and that. And when you actually start to think about how would you describe your role without telling somebody what your title is, or when you try to think about what your passion is and what gives you joy in your job, and you don't have to use a title, you probably have found alignment in what you prioritize and what you actually do. For example, if somebody were to tell me, Dr. Soto, what do you do? I always say, I make faculty, staff, and students feel welcome. And I remind them that they belong in higher education. And that actually summarizes my passion for equity, diversity, and inclusion. It summarizes my passion for medical education, faculty development, and so forth. So if you can actually say that confidently, you have probably found what you're looking for in your academic career. Next slide, please. So some of the questions that you may ask in making your decision about an academic career may include these. Again, what is your ultimate career goal? Which institution appears to offer conditions most conducive to your professional success? And remember that it's not just what it's in that MOU. Many times it's truly about the culture and the environment that you encounter at that institution. Where will you have the most useful and pertinent resources? Again, it's not just about the salary, but what else are they providing towards your professional development and towards your success? What is more important to you in the long run? Nobody can answer that but yourself, right? So you might be thinking about, where do I negotiate, or where do I compromise? You're the only person that can actually establish that. So you have to say you have to think what's more important to you. And then you may have other considerations. And that's why I wanted you to think about the values at the personal level, because really we don't live in an era where we actually separate our professional life and our personal life. I don't believe in work-life balance, but when you think about family members or other aspects of the decision about finding an institution, this may come to play. Next slide. So in terms of faculty tracks, so in thinking about what you're interested in, you may actually find yourself thinking about research, clinical, or education career. Other areas can also be stated, but if you are a basic scientist and you know that you want to do research, then you should probably then focus on a faculty track that lets you do that research. If you want to be a physician scientist, then you want to make sure that you have a track that will let you do the clinical component and the research component. And the same thing with medical education. If you're interested in medical education, that you are in a track where you are a clinician educator, or depending on how your institution works that out, that you have the right, you're in the right track. Other areas that can be misunderstood is this notion of tenure versus non-tenure. And I see that all the time, especially with the clinical faculty. With the PhDs, I think that they understand better where that is at, but many times our clinical faculty do not really understand the value of tenure in the world, and some others do. So what I want to say really quick about tenure is that tenure grants a professor a permanent employment at the university, and it protects you from being fired without cause. It is very tied to academic freedom. It allows professors to research and teach any topic, even the controversial ones. So if this is not of any interest to you, that's fine, and going into a non-tenure career. However, I will show my complete bias. As part of the statistics that we have shown today, in terms of the numbers of Latinos in faculty positions, the numbers are even lower when it comes to Latinos in tenure track positions. So if I have any wish, it's for all of us to be in a tenure track position, tenured and really leading the institutions in that way. Another aspect of this faculty track is that, especially when it comes to tenure and non-tenure, is that you may want to think really about where you're spending the most significant amount of time in, because that is actually what may determine if you want to be a tenure individual and what area of excellence may represent your work a little bit more. And I will mention area of excellence in the next slide, but really quickly here. When you're thinking about, what makes sense, for example, would you rather spend more time with a student that is challenged by a course, or do you want to figure out if you have to minimize the time with that student because you have to write a research proposal? So they're not easy decisions, but again, when you line up things with your values and priorities, it actually works. The next aspect, thank you, Dr. Garcia, and it's the last one that I will address is this notion of area of excellence. So depending on the institution, you will have a list of your faculty tracks, and you may also have an area of excellence. That area of excellence represents your major area of achievement and impact, including where you're really spending the most quantity and quality of your contributions in the institution. For example, at Indiana University, we have service as an area of excellence. And I am very thankful for that area of excellence in addition to clinical, teaching, and education. Because if I declare it as an area of excellence, then we're good. Then I'm really okay devoting my time in committees or in my community work, et cetera, et cetera. So only you will find that out when you're looking at the institution and thinking, okay, this faculty track makes sense, but they also have other nuances like areas of excellence, et cetera. So your institution will use language such as this. Never be too shy to ask. When I start talking about promotion, or actually I'll just ask this question. When do you think I start talking about promotion? During the MOU stage, to the point where I'm actually making the offer. Because if you understand this from the very beginning, there's a better chance that we will get you promoted there. So with that, I'll pass the baton to Dr. De La Rosa.
Thank you. Let me reiterate some points that that Dr. Soto has made. When you start thinking about choosing an academic track, you need to really know what your institution is offering. And I think Dr. Soto highlighted that if you've seen one academic health center, you've seen one academic health center. There are all sorts of tracks all over. I think there's now 175 medical schools in the United States. And they range from combination roles, such as a clinical educator track, to a strict research track. And I think the combinations are there. They tend to fall into education, research, clinical service in the areas that they emphasize. And I think that Dr. Soto really highlighted the concept of. Let me turn this off. Sorry. The concept of an area of excellence, and so you really want to highlight your track and your area of excellence, and those two should combine. I have a different way of saying what Dr. Soto says, but it's exactly the same thing. It's be happy. What's going to make you happy? The goal in following a career, the goal in life is to be happy. Not a selfish goal, but be happy. If you're not going to be happy doing, patient after patient after patient, handling those difficult cases, try and minimize your clinical service. If you're not going to be happy talking to student after student after student, try and minimize your teaching load. If you're not going to be happy doing research, try and minimize the different roles. So let me give you the other piece of wisdom. In order to be happy, you can do all sorts of things. In order to get promoted, you have to document your accomplishments, right? And so from the very, very, very beginning, make sure that you begin to put things in a box, whether that's a digital box or, for old people like me, truly a cardboard box. Everything that you do is documentable. If you're a great teacher, save those learners' evaluations. Make sure that you document the impacts on your learners' success. And learners can be residents, they can be students, they can be faculty. Make sure that you address different audiences in terms of your teaching. Make sure that you're doing local teaching. Make sure that you're doing regional and eventually national and international. Make sure you take that teaching into scholarship. Document your success. Document what you do. Document your new approaches to teaching publicly, and document it in such a way that you're publishing. That is the coin of the realm, whether you're a researcher or a teacher or anything in between. Documentation for promotion is key. Next slide, please. Same goes for clinical service. How do you measure the outcomes of your clinical service? Of course, work RVUs, but your participation on the quality of patient care. Make sure that your QI projects are documented. Make sure that if you are participating in a workflow for your clinic, make sure what impacts you had on your clinic. Make sure that you participate in looking at cost effectiveness of care. Again, document. Put it in your box, your digital box, or your paper and pencil box, so that at the end of the year, when you rewrite your CV, you have that box to refer to. In clinical service, the types of referrals that you get determine the level of clinical service. If you get only local referrals, you're going to stay in a particular area. Make sure that you're able to document those referrals. Document regional referrals. When people start traveling from one city to another to come see you because of your level of expertise in a particular clinical area, document that as well. And then last but not least, if you're going to have national or international impact in terms of your clinical service, document. And then take the opportunity to transform your clinical service into scholarship. Publish that cost-effective study that you did. Publish that intervention that you did in order to improve the clinic's efficiency. Always come with the attitude that you're going to take your service, whether it's teaching or clinical or research, into scholarship. Use the coin of the realm. Next slide, please. At the end of every year, make sure that you evaluate the scholarship of your accomplishment. Look at the outcomes of scholarship. Make sure that you publish in peer-reviewed journals. Make sure that you document presentations at national scientific meetings. If you have grants, make sure that you do not only internal seed grants, but external extramural grants. And these don't necessarily have to be NIH grants. Document that you were able to get a local grant for the Diabetes Association, your local city Diabetes Association, or your rural Diabetes Association. And again, the audience for this scholarship determines the level of referral. Make sure that you document consistently, constantly, the kinds of scholarship that you do. Whether it's the old adage of 2 to 3 papers a year, or 2 or 3 different presentations per year, or the grants that you do per year. Again, document. Next slide, please. If you are in a track that values academically related public service, again, document. Make sure that you keep the evaluations that you gave in terms of your contributions to productivity, your contributions to the governance of the organization. Make sure that when you serve on committees, whether those are the admission committees or the grievance committee, make sure that you keep continuing documentation. One of the things that we do at our school is give people credit for enhancing the visibility, the positive visibility of Paul L. Foster School of Medicine at TTU-HSC El Paso. There may be language in your faculty handbook that relates to that type of things. And again, remember, the type of contribution determines the level of public service. Next slide, please. And last but not least, document the importance of mentoring. Whether you are giving mentoring or you are receiving mentoring. Remember, and to go back to Dr. Soto's original discussion, the 3 things that you want to negotiate for in terms of your, and again, this is the pediatrician talking, so it's the 3 S's, right? Your salary, obviously, you want to negotiate your salary. Don't accept that, well, this is what we pay. You might come back with data. Use the ACGME guidelines, use the AAMC guidelines. If you're doing clinical service, use MGMA guidelines. This is what this level of productivity does. Space. What are you going to use for your offices? Where are you going to teach? What kind of space are you going to have for your research labs? And lastly, and to close with mentoring, support. not just money for your lab, not just money for your computer, but mentoring from above. It doesn't have to be in the contract, but for those of you who attended the morning session, talk to your boss, the person that's going to be your boss, and say, I need mentorship. This is the first time I join your organization. If you want to be a dean, talk to the dean and say, I would love to come and I would love to rely on you for some mentoring. So include mentoring in your service.
Oh, this was just me giving you, again, the first time to think about promotion is really at that stage when you are deciding what career track you will go into. And these are our top 10 issues in terms of concerns. And it's something that you need to just work on from the beginning and keep it going. Again, to have a really organized CV. One of the shockers that I see when we have new faculty orientation is the faculty that didn't realize that there's a university template, CV template, and it is a pain. I do not endorse it by any means, but it is something that you will have to, as new faculty, check if your institution has a CV template that you will have to change everything into that particular format. To start thinking about your personal statement. Again, I love how you were all writing, witnessing my students rise and thrive. I mean, these are things that you should be thinking about and including in your personal statement and thinking about those things. You're probably doing that anyway. If you are applying for a position, a faculty track, it may ask you for that type of statement. Again, thinking about the area of excellence, thinking about, the expectations that the department that is hiring you may have that you are not fully aware of. And, for a lot of us, we have to remember that academia does have a hidden curriculum, and that is not just in medical education, it's in everything that it does. And for us, it's pretty hidden, especially when you might be a first generation or just coming from low resources and not familiar enough to the game. And then obviously, again, talking about the misalignment. So sometimes you will have these MOUs or offers that are truly misaligned with not only your career interests and your skills. So pay attention to those. So I know, Dr. Garcia, that we wanted to really save more time for questions and answers, especially because there's no one size fits all when it comes to deciding on a faculty track. So I will leave it up to you and to our guests to ask any questions that they want.
I am going to thank you. That was excellent. And I even wrote my notes, Dr. De La Rosa, because those are the little details that you sometimes forget when you're going for promotion. How important, you both said. You start at the day you come in and think about promotion. And I learned that years ago, and it just stays the same. So I'm going to stop share. And I just wonder if we have any questions I don't see. If anybody has any questions they want to put in the chat or go ahead and just verbalize them, we're more than happy to have a discussion. We have about 9 minutes left.
I have a question. Thank you to the presenters and moderator for this. This is really great. I am wondering about the consistency between institutions. And you might be an assistant professor at one school, and then you apply for a position at another school, and they don't recognize it, or they say you're only an associate. So once you reach professor level, would a school demote you, or do you generally get to stay at professor level between institutions if they're all kind of similar, like accredited medical schools, for example?
That's a great question. I don't know, Dr. De La Rosa, if you want to address it really quickly. It will most likely be honored. I have not seen many places of demotion. If anything, it might be a good opportunity in switching schools that you may find yourself suddenly promoted just because of that criteria. But Dr. De La Rosa.
I would agree with Dr. Soto. Traditionally, if you are an associate professor at one school, it's very rare amongst medical schools that you get quote unquote demoted to be an assistant professor. Having said that, the rare occasion when somebody's been at a particular school for a long time, take me for an example, and was promoted through negotiation, and that can happen. Take me for an example. I was a young assistant professor. I was asked to take on the associate dean role for the School of Medicine, for the associate dean of medical education. I did not have the criteria, and I had not met the criteria for scholarship. I had two publications to my name, but I was taking on a senior leadership role. And since I was taught from an early age, if you don't ask, you don't get, I was able to negotiate a promotion from assistant to associate dean. I'm sorry, from assistant to associate professor because of my title as a dean. Let me tell you on a personal basis, that's a mistake. That's a mistake because as you go further and further and further along in your career, while the titles may sound well, you begin to specialize more and more and more and more, and you don't have the opportunities to meet. And then when you want to move, you may put the school that's trying to receive you into an awkward position of telling you, Dr. De La Rosa, you've been a dean, you've been a vice president, you've been a provost, and you've only published 25 articles. We can't make you an associate professor, much less a full professor. We can't grant you with tenure because, and then they'll say something because, the university has standards. It's not the school, it's the university. And so take my advice. Make sure that you're very aware, as Dr. Soto said, from the very beginning of the promotion criteria. The few and rare times that you see people being dropped, and it is few and very rare that people drop, it's because you don't meet the general standards by a long shot to be promoted from one school to another.
I'm glad, Dr. De La Rosa, that you brought up the publication piece, because that, I think, is the only situation where I have seen it. Because the other institution actually accepted publications whenever you publish them, from residency up to that point that you're on. My institution does not. It only counts, the publications that count are those written while you're in rank. So you can have 20 publications.
Nuria, you need to mute, Nuria. Thank you.
You may have 20 publications, from residency all to that point, but really at the institution I'm in, only the ones that are during rank are the ones that count for promotion. So again, you would only know that if you're looking at the faculty handbook and talking to individuals right away about your publications.
Remember, los dichos, the sayings have a reason for being there. And the old academic saying, the old academic dicho is publish or perish, right? So let me I think this is the third time I say it, re-emphasize, re-emphasize, publish or perish.
Okay. There's a question there. What is the role of grants versus publications? We can hear you, Silk.
Silk, you're
yeah. Sometimes you forget the space bar does that, but for us, they're very distinct in terms that you can still get promoted depending on the track that you're in and your area of excellence without any grants. But grants are nice, and it doesn't matter what size they are, depending on the track that you're in, right? So for me, for example, as a doctor in higher education, to get grants for, I don't know, I'm just going to throw $5,000 there, and I may have 20 of those. It looks pretty darn good, right? I am not one that might get the R01. So again, think about under the criteria, what is the expectation for your particular track, for your specialty, for your discipline? So that's all I can say about that. Publications are one thing and grants are other, but depending on the track, the amount may not matter much, or it may matter a lot. So.
In terms of tracks, again, perhaps for a purely clinical track, it's not the grants that you get. It really is your work RVU. If you're in a purely research track, it's going to be the grants, and that R01 is still the coin of the realm for research tracks. If you're able to generate 15,000 RVUs every 3 months, I think most people would look at you as positive in a clinical track. Except for my cardiac surgeons, we expect a little bit more out of them.
We have 2 minutes if someone has a final question or a comment.
I think Dr. Sanchez will let us have just 2 more minutes than that, because
Right in the
5 minutes. He's giving us 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
You did the most important thing. You asked. Excellent. Ask for another 10 and you'll get 7.
That's the power of negotiation, people.
Everything is negotiable. Everything.
The next presentation, I'm going to be the speaker, so I'll be late, but that's okay.
Okay.
No, hold on.
We can
Is it okay,
moderate
Dr.
here.
Sanchez? Okay, perfect. We can go 5 minutes.
One thing I would reiterate, both Dr. Soto and I put our contacts. I know tomorrow you're going to start thinking about other things and remember other questions that you should have had. I put my cell number, my personal cell number. Feel free to call me on my personal cell. I may not answer in the middle of the day, but I'll try and answer within 24 hours to a phone call.
You know, something that we didn't ask right away is how many individuals are actually in the midst of deciding what track they should be on, because that might be, useful for this time. Although I think I saw somebody there. Dr. Venado said?
Oh, hi, yes. Hi, nice to meet you all. Well, yes, I guess in my particular institution, there's a track of change that can happen at the associate level professor. So I guess that is like a built-in time to change track. So certainly this discussion is quite relevant. But one of the questions that I had is that as the criteria for promotion are getting a little bit broader, at least here at our institution, UCSF, and they're starting to build in a holistic review that includes, for example, contributions to diversity, like other things beyond necessarily publications or grants or RVUs or that type of thing. And then often I think that it's a little bit tricky for me to understand that contributions to diversity, because they make it very clear that it refers to work that is being done to improve diversity. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, especially, as people of underrepresented minorities. What do you think about contributions to diversity?
I love
So
this
I would
question.
fall back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I would fall back on my original comment. It's publication. If you contribute a methodology, let's say that you bring holistic review to faculty recruitment, or you bring a different rubric for recruiting residents, or something in between. Make sure that it's documentable, that you think about, be very, very, very deliberate and decisive in terms of what you are contributing. It's not simply to have a conversation, it's to publish that conversation. It's not simply to initiate a tool, but to publish that tool. And remember, publication doesn't have to be at the AAMC. There are many, many medical education journals. There are many, many other areas that you can publish.
I fully agree with that. Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I want you to think about, maybe we're being too narrow. Actually, when we're talking about publications, we usually talk about scholarship in general. And scholarship in general takes many forms. So it's not just a peer-reviewed journal, right? There are many other ways that you can actually disseminate and be creative about the ways that you're disseminating that scholarship. The other thing is that our faculty senate actually just approved the diversity, equity, and inclusion integrated case, which means that if you indeed do a lot of scholarship and your work centers on health disparities or health equity or whatever the case is, then you can make your promotion case based on that, and you can declare the area of excellence of service to that particular mission. So again, think about scholarship. If you sneeze, how can you put it out there? Like everything you do, just put it out there. We accept YouTube, we accept Twitter, we accept a lot of things as long as you're disseminating that work.
And there's a very interesting question, which is we haven't fully addressed, but when you're asked to serve on committee after committee, how can you prioritize and how to politely decline?
So I always recommend going back to your values and passion. So, because your values and passion are going to really guide your career. If the committee does not do that, then it's time to say, it's not doing it for me. And in other situations, if the committee is not leading to scholarship and publications that you may need, it might be also time to say no. Dr. De La Rosa, I'm sorry, I think I got you.
So there's two little tricks. One is say, yes, I would love to. Can I have some release time from my clinical duties to be able to serve on this committee? More than often, you're being chosen for representation. For representation, everybody knows what this is, the color of your skin, right? For representation, and that's why you're on so many committees. But again, remember what Dr. Soto said. If that committee is introducing new ways of doing things, that's positive, that's scholarship, that's publishable. If that committee is doing things the same way over and over and over again, and you speak up, get off of that committee.
That's wonderful advice, and certainly avoid burnout. Thank you, Dr. Soto. Thank you, Dr. De La Rosa. Great talk. And I think we're saying
Bye,
goodbye.
everybody. Yeah.
Good luck. Thank you. Stay happy.